This is the Tabernacle podcast without headphones. And I'm joined today by two legends of our church. Sorry, I said legends. Was that too soon? We have Tim and Marti Wicksall. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Looking forward to this.
Was that truth, or
No,
did you kind of feel like you got roped into it just a little
true.
bit?
We've talked about it.
We're ready.
Yep.
You're ready? Tim and Marti, I can't remember the first time I met you guys. I probably met Marti first, and that's no slam. You are a firecracker, and I love that about you. And it took me the longest time to figure out who your husband, Tim, was that you kept referencing, probably because he's in a different atmosphere than me. You're a rather tall individual.
There's a lot of opposites going on here.
There's a lot of things, right? So you said before the podcast that you are 6'4"?
Yeah.
6'4.5". You used to be 6'5".
Yeah.
Yeah. That
I'm
age
getting old.
Oh man, that lady tried to tell me I'm no longer 5'10" at the doctor's, and I made her remeasure, and so I am 5'10". But Marti, you are not 6'4", nor are you 5'10". No. You're fun size.
5 feet.
5 feet on the dot.
5
right?
feet fun. I love it. That's going to be the new dimension for me. 5 feet fun.
5 feet fun. I love it.
Do you like it?
Or just add the hyphenated fun size, because you know those little Snickers, right? They're fun size.
Yeah, that's what
It was probably our administrator Tracy, who's a little more than 5 feet, but someone said something about her being short, and she goes, "No, I'm not. I'm fun size."
I love that.
So I stole it. So, anyways, enough about candy bars. This is our first podcast without headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully, well, I don't know how it'll be different or not, but they told me to try it. So that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys, this is historic. So don't screw it up.
Oh my gosh.
We promise.
No, I'm
We
just
promise,
kidding.
right? Okay.
So great. Let's start at the beginning. Tim, where are you originally from?
Traverse City.
Traverse City, Michigan, local
Yeah.
boy?
Went to school at Traverse City St. Francis.
Really?
Yes, did.
Got the Catholic background.
You bet.
All right.
Graduated from there.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And give me some more, like, after that. Like, what were you into?
After that, I went to NMC, then to Central. I got a degree in biology.
Wow. I have a daughter getting a degree
And I'm
in
really supposed to
biology.
be a teacher, but Marty's the teacher.
Oh, Marty's a teacher, you
Yeah,
said?
I was a stonemason. That's
Stonemason,
what I did
yeah.
for 50 years.
Right. You come highly recommended to as well. I didn't know that until I think Pastor John Williams was talking about a project around here, and that you were a part. You've been a part of several projects around here, but stone is your thing.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, that was my hobby, and that was also my living. I was behind for 50 years.
Behind what?
Behind at work.
Oh, really?
I was busy.
just with the demand, you're saying?
It was a good occupation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Right. And Marti, are you also from Traverse City? Where are you from originally?
I'm from Ann Arbor.
Ann
I
Arbor.
thought you could tell, but the sophistication.
Oh, yeah, the sophistication. Oh, this is going to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you also born and raised Catholic?
No, I was born and raised in a Protestant church.
Okay. So what was the name of the high school? Like, where did you come from?
Ann Arbor High.
Ann Arbor High.
There was one high school then.
Really? So you were in the shadow of the big house?
Well, I actually lived a block away from the big house.
Really?
And we parked cars in our yard. And my dad took tickets. And this is how old I am. At the halftime at the games, he took tickets. So, and anyone could get in free. They had all the end zones were open.
Oh, like standing room?
Sitting. And we went to all the U of M games.
Wow.
And then we moved farther away from there, but we still went to the games. And my dad took tickets at the U of M hockey games. So we got into all those too.
So it's safe to say you're a Michigan fan?
Not totally.
Not totally? Okay. Is there a story behind that, or where are we going with
Well, because part of my degree work was down at Michigan State too.
Oh. Okay.
And
so you're a Renaissance Michigan gal.
I love that.
Yeah, you have appreciation for all of them.
I don't take sides.
Yeah, well, that's...
So, I have to say go blue. My brother-in-law played football for Michigan.
Okay.
And so if my brother-in-law and my sister are listening to this, I really do favor Michigan. So just so you know.
Just so you know. We just want to keep that record straight.
Because my family's way more important to me than a football team.
So when did faith become real for you, Marti? Like where was the beginning of your journey?
As a child.
Okay.
My parents were really involved in our church and served. That goes way back in my family. And I loved Sunday school. I remember I had a little altar in my bedroom, which seems kind of weird, but I think it was probably a suggestion of the Sunday school teacher. Mm. And my dad was a lay speaker. Mm. And there were always church people talking to my parents. My father was a mentor to other men. Mm. And we were really involved in the church in all ways.
So after high school, what was next for Marti? Did you go to college?
I did. I ended up finally at Eastern and got my teaching degree there. And I continued to go to church and continued to participate. I would be in charge of the children's choirs and things of that nature. And then there was my college life, which...
Is college life?
It was in the 60s.
Oh, okay.
And so I was I had a dual personality. But it was all good and part of my growth. Hmm. But I never stopped going to church ever. Hmm. I always went to church, and that was just part of who I was.
Now, did you go into teaching after that as a profession? Did you teach in the public schools or college?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I taught downstate. And then I married my first husband. We moved to Ohio. And then when we moved back, we moved to Traverse City. Mm. And I taught in Traverse City. And then I met Tim. And so, second marriage, Tim finished teaching in Kingsley. Kindergarten and first grade.
Oh, yeah. So you like the little ones.
Well, I like them all.
Yeah. Well, that's evident around here.
Yeah. I found I could work with teens when I sponsored and served with Al-Anon kids in middle school and high school.
Gotcha. Now, Tim, you're a stonemason. You were also married before,
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, faith for you, it was established in the Catholic Church, and I think
certainly.
The Catholics are great at instilling in us, and I don't want to speak for you, but a fear of God, that there is a God, and they have the, all the vestments in the church. It's honestly one of the things that I admire about the Catholic Church is the Catholic Church don't play when it comes to God, right? You could come to a Protestant tradition and be kind of like, hey, he's my groovy kind of 60s Jesus with a toga and some sandals. But out of the Catholic Church, you get a healthy fear of God.
It was a fairly rigid education, yes.
But it's a good
it
one.
Was godly. We said a prayer before each class in school.
Right.
It was all good. I never doubted Jesus.
Right. And you were married before
yes.
as well.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to fast forward the story at all. Was it always like even in your first marriage, did you continue within the Catholic Church, go to confession, go to Mass, and all that kind of stuff?
No.
So you became more of a lapsed Catholic?
I did, yes. Mm-hmm. And then started to search.
What caused the search?
I just golly, how do I say? The rigidity of the Catholic Church, the some of the beliefs. Mm-hmm. I don't want to put them down right now.
No, that's good.
I found that, for instance, the Pope, is he infallible? We've had a lot of popes. There's things like that.
That's valid.
The Mary thing.
Yeah.
There was a lot that I kind of wondered about.
Right.
Then I went to a Baptist church for quite a while. And then a Methodist church. And then I found the church that I really needed to be at, and it's right here.
You didn't know this was a commercial for the Tab. We are located in Buckley, Cadillac. No. But I think that many people find that as part of their journey. I was born and raised in a Christian home, son of a pastor, son of missionaries, and my search didn't take me outside. But within my own mind, there was always this idea, do I just believe this because my parents believe this? Do I believe this because of the home that I was raised in, the lifestyle that they led, and so forth? And so I went on a journey as well. So I think that's commendable and it's natural. Our faith should be explored. And when you see things, even as a child, whether it's from your experience, whether it's the Pope or, is this really the stuff with Mary? Is that really kind of, none of our theologies are airtight perfect. But the search to find one that matches with Scripture, that's a commendable search, for me. So let's move to where you guys met and kind of the circumstances of how you met, like how you found yourself where you are. Because really what I want to hear is kind of what God's been doing in your life these last 10 years or so. Yeah.
Well, I'll go first. I was in a mess of a marriage, and alcoholism was probably the primary cause, although I had my part too. And it got so bad that I went to see a counselor, which was really hard for a big, tough stonemason to
100%.
do. But it was really bad. It was hurting me, my kids, her. And this person said, listen, I'll deal with you if you go to 3 Al-Anon meetings in the next week. And I thought, I'll do anything to cure this mess at home. And that's how we ended up in Al-Anon. I was there to cure her, and turns out I cured me. And I went to meetings for 25 years every week, at least once a week. Plus, did all the sponsor, the whole, I'm a good rule follower.
Yeah. Well, the Catholics instilled that in you. I say that with love.
Yeah. And how did we meet? At an Al-Anon meeting. I was following those rules, went to the Al-Anon meetings. And I don't remember meeting Marty. But it was, I was working on me and worried. When you're in that situation, and a lot of people are, when you're really worried and you can't sleep at night, and you fall into. I fell into a workaholism to cover it up.
Yeah,
people like me at work.
Yeah, Tim will do it.
Yeah, with a smile.
Yeah,
I'll do more than do it.
Was it a form of escapism a little bit?
Oh, I'm sure it was. Yeah. That's where I met Matt Hughes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He was a carpenter.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
At the on the
on
job
a job
site.
that I was. Yeah.
And he's a good one too.
Yes, he is.
So, for those listening that don't know, Al-Anon is I'm not going to tell that. You tell me, what is Al-Anon?
Al-Anon is a 12-step program for friends and families of alcoholics.
Okay.
And it is to support us. We love these people. We're married to them. They're in our family systems. They're our friends. And because alcoholism and drug dependency is a family disease, it affects everyone. And we are, I learned that I was as sick as the person I was married to. I will say one thing about my experience. My former husband was sober, and was a part of his 12-step program. So the program that connects to this is the Alcoholics Anonymous program. It's also a 12-step program. This program evolved out of that because the early founders of the wives and families of these alcoholics found that they needed support too, that other people didn't understand. So we have our pockets filled with rocks, and we need help.
Tell me what pockets filled with rocks mean. because I think this is going to help some people. Now I see where this golden thread could be going, because there's two threads I want to pull. Tell me what the pockets full of rocks are. And Tim, you had said something like you went there to fix her, and it ended up you realizing you're going to fix you.
When I found out that here's simply the pocket full of rocks for me was she drank and I acted crazy.
Okay.
Very simply, I could have behaved better. I needed to work on me.
When did that realization come for you that you're in the 12-step program and you're thinking you're going to fix her, and then when did the spotlight shift to your own heart?
It came gradually as we went through the 12 steps. And as I talked to people, you find out that, you're not alone. And these symptoms are pretty universal. And that there's hope. You can get better. You don't have to go down the toilet with somebody, whether it's alcoholism, drugs, whatever.
Right. And so you're discovering I can only work on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking. I mean, that was the thing for you.
And that would help everybody in the family if I worked on me.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody in the world.
And you said 25 years? Or is it 25 years up to now, or 25 years before you met?
When I started going to church here, I pretty much quit going to Al-Anon.
Gotcha.
But I was really in it for at least 25 years.
Now, Marty, is that rare? I've heard someone say that if you looked at the numbers of people that will, I don't know what the numbers are, because the second A in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I assume the A's of Al-Anon are the same. It's Anon for anonymous. So I don't know how they possibly do these things. I only have secondhand knowledge from people that are in the program. And by the way, the Tabernacle loves both of these programs. God has used them powerfully. We host meetings here of both kinds because they're just, it's biblically based. It's we'll get to the higher power stuff here in a minute. But for Al-Anon, you don't see as many men that stick with that program. Is that correct, or is that incorrect?
That would be my perception, is that's incorrect today. Initially it was women. I mean, when Tim walked into that room, it was like there were maybe 15 or 20 women in that room. It was at a church, that first meeting, and maybe one old dude. And a lot of us were in our 40s and struggling, and he walked in, and it was like,
a dude. He also is impressive. He's 6'5".
And then he just said, he wanted to save his marriage, and we're like, where did this guy come from? Boy, that's like 10 points right there. Yeah, you got
10 points on the Al-Anon scale. Yeah.
So there are men in Al-Anon. Typically, you'll see them at the evening meetings.
Okay.
And so I highly recommend it. Works for men and women, and also young adults and even teens,
right,
that are mature enough to go to those meetings. And there's Zoom meetings, so you can do it that way. My journey that found me in Al-Anon was the same and different. I married someone who I knew had different values than I did and things going on, but I was pretty sure that when we got married, this was just going to evaporate. Yeah. And not so much that I was going to fix him, but that he loved me so much that everything would be okay. And so I had a skewed idea about what marriage was. And I was very needy, so I married out of need. And I understand that today, after therapy, Al-Anon, faith, I understand that today. I don't beat myself up for that. I did the best I could. And I, too, thought that I could fix things. And how it manifests itself with me was that as the marriage evolved and there were children involved, we were pulling apart and we were very parallel. in our thinking, our behavior, and our commitment, I believe. And I just got angry and lonely. I isolated from everyone. I was ashamed. I felt guilt. And these are all normal when you are involved in a relationship with someone who is alcoholic. And I just, I wanted out. I thought I tried everything I could. And actually someone in AA suggested to me that I go to Al-Anon, and it took me over a year to step through those doors because I was so embarrassed. And it even was so much that I thought I had to take my young children with me. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, they're going to know that I had sex with an alcoholic. What kind of a woman am I? That's how much guilt I lived with. Well, I needed to be there, and that was the only place where people understood me and offered me hope. I do want to say that not everyone who goes to these programs ends up divorcing.
Right.
A lot of people don't. And so we know people that have stayed together and their marriages are great or maybe not. But it's a choice. So we do not, Al-Anon will never tell you what to do.
Right.
They'll never promote that.
Right.
They promote self-reflection and self-growth. And why did I get here? Why do I make these choices? So that was cleared up for me. Because my first meeting, sitting around with a bunch of women smoking cigarettes and eating donuts, it was great. It was back in the day. It was back before anybody cared about health.
But the principles are really universal. It was like I was with a whole bunch of women in this meeting with one old dude, and it was like somebody had read my diary. I would say that. That's the hurts, the feelings, the manifestations are universal for men and women.
Right. That, hey, I'm not alone. There is hope. And what I do know about the meetings, because like I said, I've been to open meetings, and I feel the hope there. Now they get one person at an open meeting to share their story, and sometimes they're super poignant, and sometimes they're super hilarious. These are spectacular people, but there's always newbies, and there's people that have been in the program 20 plus, 30 plus, years. Pastor Tim's been a part of it. I think I was at his house last night, and there may or may not have been a 32-year coin someplace sitting on a table. I didn't look at it too close, but you had said, you referenced the steps. What was the first step of the 12-step process? Now, I believe they closely mirror the same steps for. They're either the same or closely mirror them in the wording or whatever.
There's one word different.
One word different. What was the most or the first most significant step for each of you as you're working through this? And we're talking about step 5 tonight at this meeting.
Right.
Was there a step early on that maybe now you see was super pivotal?
I guess it would be the second step for me. The first one is that there is a higher power.
Okay.
Who I choose to call God. The second one was more important. It was that I should believe in Him and trust Him, and He will take care of me. And I was pretty self-reliant.
Yeah, you had to learn tools to survive.
Yeah, I was a self-made person. I couldn't buy into, relaxing enough to say that God can save me from my problems. That was hard to buy into. It took me a while.
Yeah.
The rest of the steps were fairly logical.
From that.
Yeah.
But it's step 2.
Step 2 was the hardest, and it still can be. I'd really like to take charge.
Yeah. Oh, me too. 100%.
Me 3.
Me 3. So for you, Marti, was that also the most significant step?
The first step is I'm powerless over alcohol and that my life has become unmanageable. So the second step says, came to believe in a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. So I think they kind of go hand in hand. I knew I was crazy. I knew if I'm thinking about, I wish he were dead, this is not me. This is fear and anger and all the things I mentioned. So, and I knew when I was able to start looking at myself, I knew I was out of control. My life was unmanageable. And yes, the alcoholic is there, but it was the way I was handling everything. And so a big part of 12-step is that our best thinking gets us there, and I'm not God. And me trying to fix things is not working because I'm not God. And so turning it over, surrendering, these are big words. And I had to let go of thinking I had control. And that's scary for codependent people because we hang on because it's safe. Right. We know what we know. I know that might be bad, but it's better than not knowing. That. And so going in and having someone say, you know, Marty, we don't talk about the alcoholic here. We talk about us.
Oh,
what? And then
this is supposed to be the bash the alcoholic in my life
give
session.
me another donut, right? And so the second thing is, oh, I want a divorce. Well, you know what? We don't typically when you're new, we say take a year to make those decisions. And by the way, we're not going to tell you what to do here. So, and this was so good for me. So we pretty much, if you don't talk and you listen, we'll give you a chance to talk. Now, this is old school Al-Anon.
Yeah.
This was 43, 44 years ago. And it was a lot like AA, run the same way. You know, we've got the knowledge and the experience. You listen, pay attention. You want to change and get better. You want your circumstances to get better. You have to listen and be quiet. And so I had no choice. I had nowhere else to go. No one else understood any of it. And so I started paying attention. And unbelievably, and I know some people that might listen to this, I did keep my mouth shut.
No, come on. You're a great listener.
Well, and I did acquire sponsors and my life started to change for the better for me. The other thing that I want to say is that I had to let go of trying to change the alcoholic.
Right. And that's step one, right?
Powerless over
because I wanted to drill
alcohol.
on that just a little bit, where it said that I'm powerless over alcohol. And so alcohol wasn't your drug of choice. You were more addicted to the codependency of I'm in this relationship. And there's all these factors. I'm married. There's a commitment.
Right.
There's something admirable in this person. That's why I married them. And now I've got kids as part of the glue. This is my life. One of the reasons I think this is going to be such a great tool for people is alcohol is not something out there outside the church. There's people within churches that are either they come alone or they come together. It's hidden or it's obvious. It doesn't matter. It may not be alcohol. It could be alcohol. It could be some other addiction. But there's a lot of people that find themselves in these relationships. And step one is I'm powerless to change that person. I mean, I'm rephrasing it, but the powerlessness in alcohol is you can't make the decision at the time for your wife, Tim. And Marty, you can't make the decision for your husband at the time. But it's admitting that I'm powerless over that thing. And then step two is this step that says I have to put my faith and trust. This is how people come to Christ. I am powerless, step one, over sin. I'm powerless to save me. I'm powerless to find meaning and purpose and all of those things, those questions that we all have. And then step two, and you already said it, they're connected, is you have to choose to put your faith and trust in something higher than yourself. And of course, in the church, we believe that's Jesus Christ. So you're both on these journeys. Sorry, you were going off on a cool tangent there, and I was just inserting that for our audience a little bit.
Well, that's just how it works. That's why they're in the order they're in. And that doesn't mean I didn't take it back and don't take it back. Every day,
Right.
your will be done because
it's an ongoing step.
It's an ongoing step. But for me, it was something I never thought about before in that way. And the neat thing about 12-step Al-Anon is that I started using the tools in all of my life. And it's made a huge difference. So I don't, it's just, I don't know if you have something you want to add.
Well, not really, other than for me, it's just Al-Anon morphed into being here at the Tab.
Right.
Yeah, it really did.
Being productive here, being a role model for a lot of people, I think, over the years.
100%.
And it's been, I never told anybody what to do, but you just look, I'll tell you what worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to tell you that, but I'll never tell you what to do.
Now you had said that your husband at the time also got in a 12-step program and he got sober. Did your wife at the time choose that?
No,
Okay.
we did treatment centers and, things like that. No.
Right. And how many kids did you have, Tim?
Three sons.
3 sons, and you have Marty?
Two daughters.
Marty's 2. So even though he got sober, Marty, it still didn't work out.
No, it did not. And I don't, I wouldn't want to sit here and take his inventory at all. Maybe there were some switched addictions. There was just behavior that was unacceptable. And there's a couple of things that I think are important when Tim and I do open talks and things of that nature. 3 things about this disease. We didn't cause it, we can't control it, and we can't cure it. And they call it the 3 C's, and that's so powerful for people to hear when they come in and they've tried everything and their life is in ruin, like it was for me. And the other thing is, it's really important that our family is safe. And so that's another dictate in the program, that we are not at all, it's never suggested that we stay in an unsafe situation.
Got it.
And that's
for the codependent, they will.
Oh,
yeah,
of course, yeah. And I'm talking physical safety.
Yes, yeah.
More than, because emotional safety, whatever that would be. Yeah, your emotions are a wreck. And safety for the children, and so someone has to judge that for themselves. But long term, some huge miraculous things happen because of program, and I'm really glad. I'm really glad that my life has gone in the direction it's gone, and that I went through what I experienced, and irregardless of if I'd met Tim or not. But that's been a big perk.
Yeah, that's been a perk. Yeah.
And so I just know that in all the years I've been in Al-Anon, people who stick with it heal and get better with the person in their life, or with that brought them to Al-Anon, or without. And now in Al-Anon, we see a lot of parents who have adult children or any age child, and they're there because their child is an addict or an alcoholic, and talk about heartbreak.
Yeah.
That is the hardest.
Right.
And so there's hope and healing. I'm just sharing this because a lot of people during the day meetings especially are retired. And man, I have seen miracles happen with people. And then as a result of us healing, we find the dynamics, the relationships we have with these loved ones changes and gets better too. There's no guarantee. But again, it's God's will. And that's where, I have to go.
Yeah, I might add, too, that it's not just alcoholism. It's, drugs, gambling, porn. There's a lot of different things.
Porn's a big one.
Addictions are amazing.
Right.
And a lot of us will never, ever understand them.
Right.
But they're real.
I think a lot of the addicts don't even fully understand them, which is why, of course, we start with AA, and there's NA, and we even run programs here at our church for people that are addicted with pornography. And so was forgiveness a part of the 12-step? So both of your marriages, and we're not here to dissect your first marriages, but both of those marriages ended in divorce. I assume that forgiveness was a part of the 12 steps?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did that play out? Was that an easy step? Like you had said, hey, after step 1 and 2, the rest are just logical.
No. It's gradual. You keep working it, and the closer you get to it, you'll never get there all the way, I don't suppose. Although I don't think, I think I've forgiven. Pretty much. I don't want to put my hand on a hot stove, though. I do remember.
Right. So there may still be a boundary.
There's boundaries, yeah.
Forgiveness is not, like forever we're talking with people about forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay.
Right.
Forgiveness is more releasing.
With me, it's more than that. It's had it not been for that, I would never have gotten into Al-Anon and gotten probably here. Crisis promotes getting a little closer to the Lord for me.
Yeah.
You can go either way, I suppose, but it's better or bitter. I'm better, a lot better.
Yeah, was it Jesus that right after it was Jesus, right after he, the disciples came and said, Lord, teach us to pray. And I'm assuming that the Lord's Prayer is part of the end of an Al-Anon meeting.
It is.
Yeah, the same way it is in an AA meeting, the same way it is at a fight club.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Tab women still do the same. But that part of the Lord's Prayer that says, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. After the disciples asked Christ, Lord, teach us to pray, in one of the Gospels, he actually adds that if you will not forgive your brother, neither will your Father in heaven forgive you.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one,
That's
right?
a big one. I had to adjust my pillow.
Talk about that just a little bit, the whole forgiveness piece, Marty.
Well,
or as much as you want to say about the forgiveness
all right.
piece.
So in Al-Anon, okay. So during Al-Anon, I attended church, but I took my children to church, and so I had that piece going on. But I wasn't really reading a Bible. I didn't really know the Bible, so that's a separate piece. Except that it does influence. The fourth step in Al-Anon is that you take a fearless and moral inventory of yourself, and the whole, it's like, what? Me?
It's not about me. It's about him.
I did everything to keep this marriage together. I am the one that held it together, and I love my family. So it's very humbling, and you do it with somebody in the program. You bounce it off of someone so that you keep things in perspective. And one of the things I had to do was surrender. Well, I have to do it, as I said, all the time, surrender my will. But I had to look at my part and what my defects of character are. And a lot of people don't like that word defect. Call it what you will. My sin. Let's call it sin.
Yeah.
And I had to look at that and, write my journals and work on it and uncover these things. And I had to do that inventory before I could move on, and I had to relinquish it to God and ask for forgiveness. So yes, forgiveness. And when I take that stuff back, even today, I have to stop, have a conversation with Jesus and say, I took it again.
Yeah.
And
it's easy to pick up that hurt again.
Well, the hurt
or that memory.
Or my stinking attitude of getting even and resentment and that type of thing. And I'm not talking about the alcoholic today. I'm talking about just anybody. So then I go through a divorce, and I have the kids, and I'm a single mom and trying to hold everything together, which I think I did fairly well. And I move into a neighborhood, and a woman across the across the street comes over to bring us cookies or something, and she's recently divorced, and she's starts talking about her ex-husband and very angry. Now, I've been working on this anger for years. I was married 18 years, and I started going to Al-Anon in 1980. So I'd been in Al-Anon And we'd done counseling and all kinds of things. I knew I was making the right decision. I just knew it was okay. But here's this angry person, and I'm thinking, I still have all that anger towards my husband. God, now I have to work on forgiving him. And it never dawned on me that, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be one of these angry women who resents men and all of that. And so I went to an old guy who was my codependency therapist. He knows the old guy that we mutually know.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh my gosh, Marty!" And he said, "Okay, you have to just do another fourth step." I said, "What?" And he said, "Yep." And he said, "You have to get on your knees and ask to forgive this man, and you need to get over it." And because I didn't like the feelings I had. They weren't the boundaries. I had boundaries set, which we have to have. But this was just me not letting go of the feelings of betrayal and all this stuff. So I did what I was told, rule follower. I don't like those feelings in me. I'm a lover of people. And so it took a year, and I shared this in Al-Anon and in talks I do. I really worked at it. And I spent time, and I woke up one morning and I started my day, and I realized that other person was not in the forefront of my mind. And it was lifted. God had lifted it. And it was a miracle. It was a healing miracle, and it was lifted. I no longer obsessed about him. I obsessed about this person, the situation, what the fallout for my children. I quit blaming him and started taking more responsibility, and I started loving him.
Wow.
And I went from hating to loving and having compassion. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have boundaries and I know what I know.
Right.
But I started looking at it differently.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I never really talked to him about that. I think I have shared that with my kids, but I had to reach a point because I couldn't go on spiritually without getting that out of me. And it was 12-step. It was me believing in Jesus, because it was Jesus that I was working with at that time. And it made a huge difference in my life. And the other thing I'll say is, this old timer, I said to him, I'm never getting married again. I tried it. I also made poor choices growing up with guys, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he just laughed and he said, well, you think you can tell God what to do? And he said, by the way, when you're ready, God will put someone on your path. I said, nope.
Yeah.
Now, the whole time I'd known Tim, a bunch of us were friends as well. And we had done a codependency group together outside of Al-Anon, so I knew him pretty well. I also thought he was, really cute and adorable and all that. I mean,
come on, yeah.
And so, but I just thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I had a plan. I was 48 years old. I had a plan, and I had a profession, and I was going to see it through. So God did have something else in store for me, but I had to work on me first before I could move forward in any relationship.
Right. But that's a work of the Holy Spirit is what I found myself saying right there is, now this is for the listener that it's like no addiction in my life. I don't even know if I want to keep listening to this. This is not really for me. If more people within the church, not just the Tabernacle, any church could get to forgiveness, forgiving daily, forgiving the trauma of my childhood, forgiving my dad, forgiving my mom, forgiving my ex, forgiving, if you're a conservative, forgiving liberals. If you're liberal, forgiving conservatives, denominations. It's like at the root of unforgiveness is all of our cracked-potness and that we're all sinners. All of sin and fall short of the glory of God. We talked about this in my tab group last night, how important forgiveness is. And it would just make so many humans that call on the name of Jesus, better followers of Jesus, if they could just forgive or forgive quicker, or learn that forgiveness isn't even for the other person, it's for themselves, but it's got to be a work of the Holy Spirit. And it is interesting to me that once that happened, you had already decided, because that's even unforgiveness. I'll never love again. I'll never marry again. I mean, that's all part of it. Those are the trappings of unforgiveness. Mm-hmm. And it's also, I'll decide what's going on in my life. Mm-hmm. I'll be in control of my life, right? And the whole step one is you're powerless over how cute Tim is going to be in your eyes, right? So Tim, when did you guys get together?
Oh, that's a weird one.
Was it after an Al-Anon? Hey, you want to go for another cup of coffee?
Actually, it was after a funeral, and she needed a ride home.
Oh, nice.
She'd
what do you all say? You all tell people I did what?
What?
I trapped you. You don't
You
use the word
trapped.
trap.
Well,
She hustled a ride
I
home.
was absolutely hustled.
That's
Yeah.
what he always tells people.
Anyway.
Marty hustled me.
Yeah.
It's true. I did. I set up
Go
the
back
whole
to that
thing.
last point.
Yes,
I just
yeah,
want to
please
say, since your mind can only be in one place, if you put it in a healthy place, a lot of it was thought replacement with Al-Anon for me.
Okay.
I could go to a healthy place instead of staying worried about the alcoholic and what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge for me. Just turning my mind to go someplace else to how about to Jesus?
Nice.
How about pray?
Hmm.
Worked.
And so you'd moved to that place of forgiveness.
Yeah, certainly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marty's moved to that place of forgiveness. And then she hustled you.
Oh, boy, yeah.
It's true.
So there's a ride home from a funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When the rest, we probably can't share. No, we can. We had tea.
Oh, we had tea.
My daughter had my car. Darn it, she had my car, and I didn't have a ride.
Nice.
On the
and she was dating one of the guys that I sponsored.
Oh, okay.
In Al-Anon.
So you hustled him.
I was, or they were ending a relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
No.
Long story, but
good.
It all worked out. We've been very, very happy together.
So how long before you decided to get married?
Pardon me?
How long after the hustled ride home from the funeral and tea until you guys...
Less than a year.
Less than a year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like that was in November. We got married in July or August.
Of what year was
It's
this?
the same. Well, the following year, 95.
1995. So now you're starting on this journey. How did you guys get from, okay, we've forgiven, we're still in the program, we're moving through the program. How did you end up here? Because you are legends, whether you believe it or not.
How did we
part
end
of
up
our church. You're
at
part of the
this church?
fabric. Yes. Yeah.
I can tell you how, without bad mouthing another church or anything.
Yeah.
This church fed me spiritually, and I needed that. I'm not real social. Some churches are social.
Okay.
I needed to know the Bible. We kind of skipped the Bible being Catholics.
Got it. Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
I've learned so much here, and I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, I was sitting at and this isn't, I think this is one of the reasons God made me a Notre Dame fan, is so I can tell all the refugee Catholics, listen, I'm not anti-Catholic. I'm Catholic on Saturdays, right? And I always try to remind people, the Protestants, we were all one church back in the day. It's just sometimes all kind of theology can go in different directions. But I remember sitting at a Catholic funeral, and I pulled out the book in front of me, and I don't know the proper name of the book, but it wasn't a hymnal. It was a book that essentially gave you the sermon of the week. And I of course, we're, expository, go through the Bible. And I was like, oh, this is why, someone's programming this, and the guy gets the sermon for the week, and he might make a few extra, comments. And then the other funny thing I read from someone is that, it was just this year, the current Pope, who I know is very controversial, I believe, and I'll say this publicly, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but he's a very dangerous Pope. We've had some great popes that you're like, that guy's born again, I'm going to see him in heaven. Just like, there's some Baptist preachers you can look at and wonder if they're saved. So I'm not trying to determine who's saved or not. This Pope is very dangerous. But I almost fell out of my chair when someone sent me a meme that the current Pope said that sermons need to be under 20 minutes long. And and he just kind of wrote this edict for all the Catholic priests around the world. I just started thinking, oh, well, I can't even say hello in 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, like, well, there's your introduction to Babylon. Here we go, Revelation 17, and I'm probably going to go over, Mm-hmm. But yeah, your first, did someone invite you? Did you guys just decide to try it?
Actually, there were people over here that we appreciate.
Okay.
That used to go to our church.
Okay.
Yeah. Who invited me? Randy Weber.
Oh, I know Randy. Yeah.
Because we talked, and I said, what am I doing at this church? Come on over. This is great. You got to try this out. And we tried a couple other churches before
mm-hmm. this. So you're on a church search a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
Sort of.
Yeah. And ended up here, and just, honest to God, it was what we needed. Both of us. It wasn't just one or the other.
No, we came on a Saturday night, and it was 7 years ago. I looked at I found my original notebook where I took notes. And
we were already in T2 at this time.
Yeah,
right?
You just moved in there.
Yes.
And of course, we didn't even think about that. And we walked out to the car, and I looked at Tim, and I said, I think this is it. I don't think we have to go anywhere else. And Tim said, I'm ready. Let's do it. And I think I've shared with people here that there was an intention. I love that word. That's my big word. There was an intention in this church. I felt an energy that was new to me in any church. And the people were very, very friendly, if we knew them or not. We did know a few people. That was nice. But the message was right on, and the music at the time was fine, and I was fed. I was fed by the smiles, and I was fed by the message, and the comfortable feeling I got. I believe that's still a big part of our church, and I promote it anyway, because if people don't see a smile or some eye connection or something, they're not going to stay. They're going to boogie in and boogie out, typically. So, but it was more the spiritual. I guess I would say the Holy Spirit was leading us, and knew we were desperate to find something different that would feed us more. And it happened. And we never, we're not, well, all churches are important to me. And I feel sad when churches are leaving the fundamentals of the Bible, but that's not my business.
Right. Oh, and yeah, that's step one.
Yeah,
I'm powerless to control that church.
And and I, I'm not saying that wasn't necessarily what was going on in the church we left. I love those people. I still miss those people. We were very involved in that church, and but Sunday mornings we came away, and I came away with judgments and evaluations instead of being filled with spirit and hope and wanting to know more about Jesus. And after a while, it really it wore on us. And we heard about this church, and we said, "Oh well, Buckley."
Yeah. You guys live in Kingsley, right?
We got it from a lot of different angles.
We didn't really hear that. It's like, well,
it's okay. We're like the Field of Dreams. You just show up, and it's like, what is this doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell people that in Traverse City, and they'll go,
Buckley.
I've never been in Buckley. Well, it's really easy to get around. You can't lose your way.
You've probably heard me tell that story. When I was youth pastor here, this would be 23 years ago, I was youth pastor here, and I went to a youth pastor meeting, and God was starting to do stuff here, and he was starting to grow us, and I was introduced with all these other youth pastors. We got a new member. This is John. He's a youth pastor in Buckley. And one of the pastors said out loud, Buckley, I didn't think anything good could come out of Buckley.
No, really.
And I was incensed and just was kind of like, And of course he got a big laugh. And then I shut the room down when I said, oh, they said that about Jesus in Nazareth.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, dang, and then here 20 some years later, we got Traverse City people. So, but you guys both jumped in with serving, with getting involved, participating. There's a lot of things that I love about both of you. Your names come up quite often, and it's almost always about how you've encouraged someone on our team. And I don't want to get tears because then I would be the first person to cry today.
I think I had tears.
Oh, you had one. Okay,
come on,
I don't need the second
let me
one.
have that.
But from both of you, whether it's a handwritten note to Marti, you like to catch me if it was a particularly impacting message for you, and you have a little. If you ever see us on Saturday night, and Marti looks like Babe Ruth, she does the little home run swing, kind of whatever. That is massive. That's massive. John Williams loves when he's got a project. He always acts like he doesn't love the project, but he does love it. And you've been energy and fuel for him. And I don't feel like it's a workaholism
I love
thing.
time with him.
Yes. Well, he loves it with
honor.
you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And just some of the just the service that you've been, both of you, to our church. And even, Marti, what you were talking about, if someone comes here and someone doesn't see them or doesn't see a smile, it's because they're probably staring at their feet. The way you interact with new people. I know a lot of that is from your journey. I know some of that, or I'm guessing some of that is from the fact that you remember the first time you were at a meeting and the person that saw you and welcomed you. Tim always talks about how one of his goals and one of my goals is we really want church to feel more like a recovery meeting than as much as it can. It's a monologue. It's not always a dialogue, but the whole interaction of church, not just from the Sundays, the worship, the gathering, the big deal, to the third space, to the Fight Club tables, to the tab groups, to the tab women's groups. We really want it to be a place where sinners can find recovery, can find healing, can find Christ. And so you guys have been huge. You are no longer newbies. 7 years? Come on. You guys are old school now.
No, I was going to say we're oldies. I'm a lovely because, Vicky has told us that
you're
old
one of her
women
lovelies?
are Yeah, we are. Well, anyone over, 60 is a lovely.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you could be a super lovely or just a normal lovely, so you have to make your own judgments on that. But I will. What I want to say something that's been on my in my thoughts for a long time. When leadership people share with me that there is a lot of criticism and that you all receive criticism for all kinds of things, whether it's music's too loud or you. That breaks my heart. It really does. Prepare for one Sunday morning Tab Kids lesson. And if I got a note saying that I failed in some way or I could do something differently in that vein of a criticism, that would be a horrible thing for me. And so when I heard you years ago and other people just say, well, we heard about this, and you're not complaining when you're doing it. You've done it from the stage.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh my gosh, these people have no idea how many people you're touching, whether it's the musicians, whether it's the people back in the technology area, someone like Benji. We are so grateful. And we know how much time, I can't imagine how much time it takes for you to prep for your, I know what I spend for Sunday, I call it Sunday school, but and I just decided that was enough of that.
Yeah.
And that you are loved and cared for by the majority of people. And I don't run in circles where people are being critical here. In fact, that's something I learned in Al-Anon. Gossip, no, I stay away from that. If I can't hear something good, I don't want to do that. So I'm just so thankful to all of you out there who do all the things behind the scenes. I don't think I have a good handle on how much the music.
Oh, yeah. The hours that they put in.
Oh,
yeah.
My gosh. Stephanie was telling me about what she does and what they do, and like all the little earphones and the different nuances of that. I think it would behoove us as a congregation to just be thankful. It's so hard what you do. People have no clue. That's why serving is so important, because not only are you reaching out for God's glory always,
right,
but you're gaining an appreciation of the dynamics of how this works. I looked up the number of people that work for the Detroit Lions. I do stuff like that.
Yeah.
When they were winning.
Yeah.
There were 250 jobs.
Wow.
From the guy who makes sure the concession people are all in place.
To the guy folding the uniforms, shining the helmets. Yeah.
I mean, so I just feel like we as if we can't do anything else because we don't feel we can, say thank you once in a while. Be appreciative. Jesus wants us to show gratitude. And I'm so grateful for this church. And that's the other thing. That's my payback. I have grown so much in Christ. It's changed our marriage and everything. So I hardly know the Bible, so I'm learning, because I didn't learn that growing up. It wasn't biblical. It was verses.
Right. Little bits and pieces that didn't all thread
And then
together.
I learned the importance of bringing people in, discipleship, in my own family, to bring my kids in or come back to church, come back. There are no mistakes with God, and He's in charge. And we pray for His will every day. That's the third step. Turn my will and my life over to God. I have to do that. I want to do that. The payoff is huge, no matter what's going on in my life. If it's a physical thing, if we've got sickness, if something's going on, if it's a negative, it still becomes a positive. And that's because we glorify God first. I lived my life believing in Jesus, but I never believed my life in glorifying Him first. And I've learned that here.
Well, I wanted to say that we're grateful. Like, I'm grateful for a couple things. One, that you heard that and decided you wanted to be different. I also want to say I'm grateful that you just went on that rant.
I did. I'm so sorry. I do rant. People that know me know that I rant.
Yeah. No. That was a beautiful rant. I'm going to give you the last word on that. And I do want to say that God has, I want to be grateful to God, because the encouragement that we're getting now is so much outweighs any negative comments or this wasn't right. And to also say, I'm growing too. The people don't know, when you're done with a sermon, physiologically how you feel. I had a friend one time that said, if a guy preaches correctly a 35 to 45 minute sermon, that there's the same physiological, and I don't even understand what that means, but response in his body as if he just ran a 5K or a marathon. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't translate to calories, or I would be the most svelte pastor because you do it 3 times on a weekend.
Skinny.
But you're so raw at that moment. And so God has provided people that are so encouraging, and then I'm always changed by a message. I'm moved by the music. Tim and I always talk about wanting to be a part of the, church, or make the church we always wanted to go to. And so I'm learning just as much as everyone else. And God's word just, when you come to that place of believing it for your life, then it's like, I want everything that it has, and I want to wrestle with the hard parts. And it seems like God's doing something really, really, really cool here. So I'm glad we found you, or you found us. I don't know who found who, but thanks for sharing your story today. It's been huge. Are there any things that you were like, hey, if I'm on the podcast, I want to make sure and say that? Or if there's anything that we missed that you think might be encouraging for someone who's listening?
I might have a little one for the guys
Yeah.
that are hunters and fishermen.
Yeah.
I start every morning listening to Dean Haltz.
Oh, yeah.
And
Dean's been on this podcast.
Yes,
Dean
he
Haltz,
has.
yeah.
And he wrote a book. It's a daily reader.
Yep.
It's great. The last thing I do at night is read that book before I turn the light out. And that's every day. What an impact he's made on me, really. But that's because we're similar.
Yeah. But that's a great shout out. That's a free shout out.
Yeah, and he deserves it.
Do you also get his email Devo?
Yes,
that comes
I do.
Every
in
day?
the morning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that if, as Tim said, if that's something that you want to look into, either for yourself or someone you love, I believe you can search God's Great Outdoors.
That's it.
God's Great Outdoors. You can sign up, and it comes for free.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always like it was in my inbox this morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short Devo, and then you can also find a link to find his book.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of the title right now. It's on my shelf at home.
Trophies of Grace.
Trophies of Grace. Yeah, that was his old ministry. So, no, we love Dean. Sorry, Marty, you want to say?
No, Tim is, he's my mentor. I mean, I look up to him. His faith is so strong. And so, I stay up and watch something on Netflix, and he goes to bed and he reads a devotional. It's like, and I'm in a Bible study outside of part of the church, but and I mean we all know everybody's issues, right? And I often say Tim is he's so good all the time, and I love that. I love that
Tim
about
is good.
him. I have a couple things.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Number one, Tim and I talked very little about coming here today. We figured we'd do better in a conversational thing. But I will say something that's been very, very important in our marriage. And we have blended families, second marriage. It's tough. It's really tough to make that all work. We put each other first before our children.
Good.
And that can be a sticking point for people. But we rarely have had any arguments in our whole marriage ever. We just, like Martin said to us, how would you describe your marriage? And Tim said,
we don't have arguments. It's been smooth. It's been, I never knew it could be this good. Is that? I mean, really, I thought it had to be strife. I thought it had to be, this is easy.
Well, Marty, I think you nailed it. And it seems counterintuitive to parents because I will talk to guys at Fight Club tables and we'll talk about priorities in your life. And they're like, I know I got to put God first and family second. I go, no. You got it messed up. If you're married, God first, your wife second. Or if you're a woman, God first, your husband second. The kids come third. We're not talking about the Titanic going down. All right. So if the ship's going down, I get it. Women and children first. That's the man thing. But we tend to lump family together as a priority. And it's like, no, a child would much rather know that mom and dad are good. And even if they don't get it, that has to be rock solid before you can help your children with anything. And so I love that you said that because I'm a huge fan of that. That would save a lot of marriages. A lot of strife is just prioritizing us. We prioritize us. It's not to the detriment of our kids, but especially I'm thinking about young families. The kids just overtake everything, and then the two that are, the mom and dad, they just grow apart. And then, as I've said before, those kids grow up and leave, and then you're like, who are you, right? So,
right.
No, that's well said.
Our children don't belong to us. They belong to God. And when they are adults, they aren't ours. And I think I did a lot of tough love with my kids. Some probably good, some not. It was hard, but there was a payoff. They're independent and they're beautiful women. Tim also did the same thing. So putting God first is huge. And I think because we have done that, we usually end up making pretty good choices. The other thing that Tim always says, like people argue, we don't argue. And people say, what? You don't get along. I said, well, Tim he says, do I want to be right or do I want to be
happy?
Oh, that's awesome.
We have a bunch of things like that. And,
that's golden wisdom.
You can just let stuff go.
That's golden wisdom.
Just let stuff go. How important is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I can give you an example. Last night I said to Tim, "Oh, after the podcast tomorrow, let's go out to lunch." And I've done this to him before. This morning we're having coffee, and I said, "Oh, I don't think I want to go to lunch." And he said, "Well, I want to go to lunch." And I immediately thought, I pull that on him, and I said, "Well, I do too. I don't know why I said, just let go of little stuff and communicate."
Yeah.
Communicate.
Yeah.
Which we do rather well, I think.
We do
I
pretty
think
well.
you do really well. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
we do well.
We have the luxury of being retired.
Yeah.
And
which means you're available.
There he is.
Yeah. This was actually Martin had an interview with you before, and then he wrote some really cool things down. I think we've hit most of it.
Okay.
But this actually is related to what you just said. Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Because I think your marriage is admirable. I really do. Much to be learned, much to be admired. This is Martin's words, and forgive him if I don't. I think
I know where to find him.
He says, he said, Tim will say 1/4 of the words that Marti does, and they are good with that. They are good with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the one that I like, because that's the Marti, you and I are the same way, so that's not hurtful.
I know.
in any way.
It's scary.
Yeah. But then he said this: they are trained through Al-Anon not to cut each other off and correct each other's stories. And when you talk about communication, that is a skill that I have heard about and learned that I think would help a lot of marriages. Mm-hmm. Is so you don't see one that's domineering or dominating. What you see is that when the two become one flesh and they choose to really stay humble and love the other person well. We can say on the surface, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? That might sound a surface thing, but it's really what you said after is this really that important?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really that important? And then when you have two people that are self-aware and that have been through that journey of forgiveness and putting Christ
Mm-hmm.
first, it's a beautiful thing. And I think you guys are beautiful people with a beautiful marriage. So
I would really highly recommend people try Al-Anon or AA if you're sitting out there.
Yes.
There's help out there, and you won't be judged. You'll be welcomed and loved just like you are at this church, and there is healing and there is hope. Hugely there is hope. No one has to live in a way that is so demeaning and difficult. You can, and you get better for yourself, and because of that, the whole situation gets better.
Yes.
So
and
please,
especially if you have Christ in your life.
Yes.
If you have Christ in your life.
Yes.
That's a great commercial. So if you're struggling with addiction, get in an addiction program. Mm-hmm. It's pride that keeps us out of it. It's pride. It's fear. Fear is related to pride. Mm-hmm. Or you can choose to stay unhappy. Or if you're in a relationship, you can choose where the other person's struggling with addiction. God's provided us the tools to find freedom. And so thanks for sharing.
And there's only freedom in Christ.
100%.
And He wants us to be happy, joyous, and free on this earth. So
was this as frightening as you thought it would be, or is exactly what you thought it would be? First time on the podcast?
About what I thought it'd be, Yeah.
Would you ever come back?
I got into it. I kind of like the mic.
Oh, you kind of like it. Oh, we're going to start a Tab Women. There's going to be a Tab Women podcast.
For those of you who know me out there, you're going, oh, no.
No. We love it. We love it. Thank you so much.
This turned out to be.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you for all that you do and that you cover so many topics. And to Benji and Matt, we're just, we were totally honored, just honored to be here.
Well, you've been on the radar for a while, and I'm thankful that Martin finally made it happen.
Yeah, good.
I'm trying to get off the Celsius. So if you're wondering today, it's Jocko Go. No free shout-outs, Jocko, but it's supposed to be healthy. Now it's not just my wife and daughters that are managing what I put in my body. Now I have these healthy daughters. Dad, you can't eat that. Dad, you can't drink. Now I got people on my staff. Hey, you're 54, old man. Why are you drinking that Celsius or whatever it was? And so somebody told me this was healthier because it has arginine, whatever that is. But I also had black coffee.
That sounds gross.
It sounds gross.
Oh, no, here we go. We're going to go down a rabbit trail. Okay, we're done.
Yeah. But also, for the outdoorsmen, you mentioned outdoorsmen.
Yes.
Do you have a Yukon River knife yet?
No, I don't.
I need to remember that for Christmas, birthdays, Yukon River knives.
Valentine's.
Yes, a portion of the sales go to support Alaskan inland missions. So if you're listening, get yourself a Yukon River knife. If this podcast was helpful to you, please share it with somebody. Please share it with somebody who's been to a Tab Women's Retreat and wants to giggle at Marti. If someone's wondering who that tall man, that tall drink of water is that she's always sitting with on Saturday night, share it with one of Tim's friends. But Tab Podcast family, thank you for being a part of this journey. And Tim and Marti, thanks for being here with us. And so until next time, this is Tim, Marti, Benjamin, and me signing off.